Welcome to Punk Rock Cartoons, Volume 3. Weird dudes with dyed mohawks and spiked jackets. That's what the American media has made most people think of when the word punk is used to describe anything. However, that standard mental image couldn't be farther from the truth. It's more of a business tactic to scare suburban moms and drum up business at Hot Topic. So here's a simple way of putting it, right? You're standing in the woods, an authority figure is pointing down the beaten trail. He says, that's the way to go. And instead of going that way, you flip the bird and you head left into the brush. Now, what is punk rock cartoons, right? Well, if we were to apply that to cartoons, we'd have to fill out all the criteria. Instead of the environment being woods, let's call it showbiz. The authority figure is societal expectations. And that beaten trail is making a show for kids and parents that doesn't offend anybody or make anybody think. Of course, the end of that trail in both situations is the idea of success, right? Is it money, fame, power, influence? I mean, I guess it really depends on the individual's idea of what success is. But life is about the journey, right? It's about how you travel to get where you're going rather than where you're going. And even for somebody like me, somebody who was born in the 90s, which is arguably one of the most censored decades when it comes to music, television, and video games, the first time that I saw Japanimation, I knew something was up. This was not your typical animation. It had the audacity of pro wrestling with the energy of a 5-year-old kid hopped up on Red Bull. It was fast, it was loud, and it was fun. A far cry from your standard episode of Hey Arnold. What would become known as anime in the West hit me in a spot that I didn't really understand for a long time. It wasn't something that I really thought about farther than I like this and people say it's dumb. See, at the time I was more interested in the music scene, either playing my own shows or going to see bands like Bad Religion or Less Than Jake, whatever. However, the older I got, the more the two seemed to cross paths philosophically, because there are people out there that have a need, a compulsion to take that left into the brush, you know what I mean? Fast forward a decade and a half, and we need that philosophy now more than ever. We need to take a hard left, and we need punk rock cartoons. If you ever took a second to look up and think, why does it have to be like this? Pay attention. I've spent the majority of my life asking myself that question. I may have a couple answers, and it may have a couple partial solutions. You see, punk's not dead. The music is mostly, and the fashion is just reiterative at this point. There's more to it than that. Life is a cacophony, right? These last 7 years, the last 3 in particular, have been an absolute maelstrom of noise. It's just been beating on our eardrums and our eyeballs relentlessly. So the question is, if everybody hates it so much, why is it like that? And the answer is because people with a lot of money, they don't want you to think. I mean, how could you possibly think with all that noise? How can you possibly think when all you can do is manage to get through your 40-hour work week, chores, and errands? The answer is you can't. Or you can't do both at the same time and be effective at either. So you're in the woods, but now they're full of screaming voices warning about the end times, economic disaster, geothermal collapse. It's deafening. And of course there's that very smart man pointing down the clear path out. So what are you gonna do? What choice do you have? I'm not going to be one of those people to gaslight you and tell you that it's always been this way. It has not. It's pretty much as bad as you think it is. So considering that, let me ask you a very easy question. How do you like being forced to do something? How do you like that very smart, very trustworthy, grinning man in a business suit whose daddy invented the Pop-Tart pointing down the easy path wearing earplugs, telling you that that's where you're supposed to be? If your answer is, I hate that, let's continue. Japan is an interesting place. It is one of the most oppressive free societies in the world. Highly patriarchal, nepotist, and run by seniority. Kids go to school 6 days a week and barely have any time off until they hit the workforce, and then when they do that, they work until they die, sometimes at their desk. But out of this firm stranglehold on the daily life of the average person comes wriggling out some of the most creative minds that we've ever seen. People who see their world for what it is and think, why does it have to be this way? Because surely it wasn't always like this. And to that last question, I would like to point you to a microcosm. You're looking at it. It's called YouTube. See, I was never content with just being like a fan of things. I always wanted to get involved. When my local music scene kind of dried up after state champs got signed, I needed something else to do, right? I needed a new outlet, and I'd been watching a lot of YouTube, and I was like, you know what? I would like to do that. So that's what I did. It wasn't easy. First thing I had to do was not be homeless. And on top of that, I needed to get a decent job to buy the things that I would need to start that endeavor. But I did it, and you know what? That was a beautiful time. Everything was new and fun, and you could just get monetized with 100 subscribers, and you could say almost anything, you could show almost anything. It was free, and it was wild, and now it is not. But more on that in a minute. Bringing it back, if you look at anime, it's a very similar situation. Here on this channel, Bonsai Pop, we like to look mostly at anime from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, because during that time there was a creative explosion in Japan. There's a proverbial buttload of content from that time period that is simply fascinating. And one of the reasons for that is that in that time period, most of the content was not made for Western audiences. That allowed the creators to make whatever they wanted to make without having to have it make sense to a bunch of gaijin. And despite its absolutely dystopian work culture, Japan is a beautiful country with an amazing amount of culture to draw from when people are making creative works. There's also a lot of deviant expression that hasn't aged well.
For instance, if you were to let me see your underwear.
But when your society has its hands around your neck that hard, I mean, people are gonna get weird. But weird can be good. Weird is what you get when you take that hard left into the brush. When you take your own path instead of taking that straight road towards, well, I guess it's death, isn't it? Success may be a stop along the way, maybe that light at the end of the tunnel, but once you get past that, we all end up in the same place. So when you get there with everybody, wouldn't you rather have some wild stories about your journey along the way? So yes, for a time, anime and manga were incredibly creatively free, at least as free as something that expensive to create can be. Projects that would now be laughed out of the pitch room got greenlit, they got funding, and they were spread throughout Japan and sprinkled into mom and pop shops across the US. Of course, what you got in the mom and pop shops, that was early stuff. That was for real hardcore nerds back then. But then America really got a taste. You see, the early 2000s were not a good time for us. Our wacky cowboy president and his war criminal buddy were mucking their way through international incident after international incident. The future was uncertain, the present was uncomfortable, and people started to find solace in the absolute wackiness that was Japanese entertainment. It was something that was so far off the map from what we were used to that you could really escape into it. It was really mind-opening at a time where we were supposed to shut our eyes and ears and root for a country that most of us were losing faith in. So naturally, all of a sudden, there was a market. And my friends, there is nothing more disgusting, more cynical, or more insidious than American commercialism. Good time for an ad break. What was I saying? Commercialism. You know that ad you hopefully just skipped through or didn't have to watch because you pay $10 a month for YouTube Red? We don't have a choice. If that ad wasn't there, you wouldn't be watching this video. Yes, it would have been buried by a cold, unfeeling computer program that is designed for one thing and one thing only: make as much money as possible. And that's the issue. In America, it's never just, let's make some money. Instead, it's, let's make all the money. And with a mindset like that, nothing's ever good enough. Feed the greed, feed the machine, streamline the process. So what does that mean for something like anime? It means you dive into user data, you find the thing that people like the most, even if it's by like 1 percentage point, and you spam the hell out of it. You may have noticed a trend here or there on your streaming service. Let's say an isekai with a very generic main character and at least one anime babe with big old badoogadoogas. And there's a big reason for that, and it's because Westerners dig it. You see, because here's the thing, Japan, very small place. Western world is a very big place. And when there's a lot more people, that means there's a lot more money. So when your entire economic system is based off of one as predatory as the United States, what are you gonna do? Everybody say it with me, make all the money. Thank you. In that case, when anime has hit the Western world, and it has, I mean, we are breaking records every year. Who are you going to cater to? The places with more money or the places with less money? I don't think I need to spell that out for you. But then what happens to projects like A Wind Named Amnesia or Wicked City or, I don't know, hell, Dark Cat?
Time for some extracurricular activities with teacher.
Nothing. You see, there's no money to make them because people don't believe that they will make the money back. Instead, what you gotta do is you gotta invest in the new isekai, or at least that new banger shonen, you know what I mean? I guess it just can't be helped. Majority rules, that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? Well, maybe not, but we'll get back to that. But at least you're used to ad breaks, right? Because there will be one coming up 6 minutes after the last one. You gotta space them out by 6 minutes to make sure that each ad plays consistently for every viewer. And if you don't do that, people might not see a video because there's ones out there that are making more money. Obviously, YouTube is going to prioritize the videos that they think is going to make them the most money. It didn't really used to be like this. I mean, obviously there was always ads, but one day YouTube and the rest of the world realized that through YouTube, you could become a star, or what's now very cynically known as an influencer. And really, I mean, what's better for hawking wares than somebody that people trust, that they feel a closer connection with due to the way that YouTube videos are? You know, the more personal nature of YouTube content. The answer is nothing much. Every company, every brand, they all looked at each other and they said, we can use these kids. And then they wrung their greedy little hands and said, they owe us. Because YouTube is a very expensive website to run. It is very, very expensive. But thankfully, hundreds of billions of dollars are spent every year in America on advertising alone. That's enough money to solve all of the financial problems in the world hundreds of times over. And of course, it's all spent trying to get you to buy Pepsi. This video is not sponsored by Pepsi. And that's how YouTube makes money to keep itself alive. Advertisers buy ad space like this.
Long, long
But what happens when advertisers get upset? Say for instance, the biggest YouTuber in the world says a very, very naughty word. A word that might make a large demographic of this company very upset. Well, the advertisers learn that they can take YouTube hostage. No ads, no money, no YouTube, no content creators. See, advertisers can advertise anywhere. It doesn't have to be on YouTube. So if YouTube doesn't do what the advertisers want it to do, then they take all the money away. And all of a sudden, the place that used to be a bastion of hope for weirdos who like you, who like old anime, disappears. In the worst case scenario, what we got was that place on a corporate leash. And what do corporations want? To make all the money. So say, just for example, isekai is the biggest money maker in anime. They're gonna pump out isekai like babies from a Catholic crèche. And there's always a biggest money maker. So who is the biggest money maker on YouTube? Kids. I mean, they will literally sit on YouTube all day and click and click and click and click. But sometimes they click on something that's not made for them. And then mommy and daddy get mad. You see, mommy and daddy want little Jimmy to grow up and follow the beaten trail through the woods so little Jimmy doesn't disappoint them. If little Jimmy watches a video about anime from the 90s that has some adult themes like Ninja Scroll, little Jimmy might think that's cool. And then he's gonna drop out of school, start lighting fires and huffing glue. But what if, no matter what, little Jimmy couldn't click on something that would make mommy and daddy mad? What if everything on the YouTube was made for little Jimmy? That could be good. That could make all the money. Welcome, my friends, to 2023. Clean, sterile, safe, disgusting. For the past few weeks, videos have been getting demonetized across the board en masse. The rules have changed, and to be honest, we don't know what those changes are. It's always been the fun thing about YouTube, learning through punishment. What we do know is that the content that we've been making on this channel for years might not be acceptable anymore. We've always been pretty good about naughty bad boy words, but moving forward, what we can actually show you on the screen is questionable. Covering something, for instance, like Chainsaw Man may not be possible. It might even be possible that something like Dragon Ball Z is too violent. It's not great. How does that make you feel? Think about it. But one thing is absolutely certain now more than ever, and that is we need punk rock cartoons. I'm not saying that there isn't anybody out there creating dark, provocative, philosophical stories. What I'm asking is it enough? Can they find their way out of that pile of isekai and shonen fight anime, the mass marketing geared towards the average viewer. It's hard to say. And what about us? I mean, are we supposed to give up, clean up our act? Only talk about shoujo and rom-coms. Pull in a sponsor for every single video. Be the influencers that we are supposed to be. Shove terrible products at you like Raycons. Yeah, we're expected to do that. But we won't. Just about every video I get somebody telling me that YouTube is not a real job. I don't take them seriously. That kind of reductionism only comes out of people who absolutely hate their lives, so sucks to be you. And as far as YouTube being a job, I struggle with bipolar disorder. Makes something as simple as holding down a 9 to 5 next to impossible for me. So I'm doing everything I can to make something of myself and to be productive instead of sitting around and taking disability checks. And honestly, like, there are situations where people absolutely need disability checks and there's nothing wrong with that. That is not a blow at anybody. I can do this, so this is what I'm doing. But it is a job, and I take my job very seriously. I don't necessarily take myself very seriously, but the job, the content, what I'm putting out there, I take it very seriously because I take my morals very seriously. For the past 4 years, I've been extremely open and honest with the entirety of the world, really. I've been shamelessly open and clear about who I am and what I think. But this kind of open honesty it's definitely made some people upset. But I mean, realistically, like, who am I upsetting? It's just people who are gonna get upset eventually down the road anyway. By doing things my way, I have found an audience that understands me and where I'm coming from. And those foundational principles that this channel was based on have not changed, and they will not change. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm simply trying to reach out to people who have also looked up and said, why does it have to be this way? And of course, to entertain you along the way. I fight against the flow because I don't see the value in going with it. And on YouTube, honesty and integrity is everything in this cesspool of grifters. You know, like the real influencers. And the fact that we're still here and we're doing okay proves that. Because the world is changing, and with it, entertainment is changing. You are being looked at through a microscope, monitored real hard. Everything that you do on an electronic device is being fed into an algorithm so it can figure out what to show you that you're going to be most likely to impulse buy. Finding refreshing things is becoming more and more difficult as time goes on. And honestly, if you want something new, if you want something with integrity nowadays, as a consumer, you have to become a part of it. For instance, I've helped kickstart a ton of things. Video games, video game systems, music, records, things like Body Video's Soul Arts right here. And no, I'm not gonna open it. I have the digital edition. This thing is beautiful. There's some new Vampire Hunter D comics that are coming out that I also helped kickstart. Very excited for those. Though, like everything, we know that Kickstarters aren't always perfect. Look at Mighty Number 9.
Please for more funding. Wait, whoa, you're being delayed again?
Cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Yikes. But nowadays, if you believe in something, you have to become a part of it or it will not happen. There's too many heads in the game. What I want to do is I want to keep talking about the things that I love, the things that I find important and that make me think, and share them with you guys. I want to be able to continue to be able to say what I think needs to be said. And while that has got me in trouble with certain sects of society that exist on 8kun, something like our Afro Samurai video was necessary to do. And for the people who were able to see it before YouTube shut it down, it was lauded. The goal, more or less, is to become algorithm proof. And to be honest, that's not something I or Tyler can do by ourselves. We honestly and wholeheartedly need your help. We have big plans for this year, good ones, and ones I think you guys are really gonna like. So I say, let's make that happen together. As longtime viewers know, we talk about our Patreon in every single video, and honestly, that's because it is the best way to help, and we are so proud of it. And the people that are in it, and the people that we've gotten to know, who have become our friends. I remember there was this one commenter one time that gave me all this crap about saying that my patrons are my friends, and they are. You know, I don't get to talk to all of them, of course, but there are people who have been in there for years that we have emotional attachments to that I don't know what it would be like in my life without them. The other thing is that we don't kick people out of the community if they can't pay anymore. Once you're in, you're in. Unless you do something real bad and then you're out. But really, if you think the general audience of our channel is full of awesome, like pretty nice people, like we legitimately get really, really good comments, then imagine the people who go so far as to back the channel. They really are exceptional individuals. And one of the things that Patreon helps us do that's very important is create jobs. There's a lot of different facets to YouTube. There's all sorts of artistic abilities that you need to have. You got to make the thumbnails, you got to write the videos, you got to express yourself through your voice. You have to get on camera, you got to learn how to light things. Do you know how hard it is to be able to do this and not make a shadow on me? Our main concern has always been hiring artists and editors and paying them what they deserve to be paid, because they are real jobs. And last year, with your help, we were able to hire editors occasionally and pay them what they deserve to be paid, which is minimum $15 a minute of content. And if you saw the jobs that Axel and RTO did in this video, you'll understand why they deserve to be paid at least that. I would love to be able to pay them more. But Patreon is not the only option. It is not the end all be all. There's always liking and commenting. I don't care if you subscribe. You don't have to. We post regularly on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern time. All you have to do is check the channel. Word of mouth, sharing the videos, especially if you know what you're doing on Reddit, man, that can really help. And of course, interacting with us. We love that. All of that together makes such a difference. But if you are subscribed, checking your sub box every Saturday, that makes a big difference too, because then you don't miss stuff. And it's not like we're gonna make a video that bores you, you know what I mean? Because in the end, it is our mission to find the punk rock cartoons, the things that maybe you didn't know about, or maybe you didn't think about, and bring them to the forefront. And yeah, that's not always super trendy to do, but it's a lot of fun. It's really fun, and I love it. And I'm hoping that you guys do too. And of course, we also have ideas for all sorts of other shows that we are planning on launching this year. And I know that we can take this experience and this philosophy that I've been talking about farther. Together we can spread it, and I think we can legitimately make some change happen. If nothing else, we can inspire new creators to take their own paths. We can inspire bigger creators to say what they think that they need to say. We can show people that they don't have to rely on YouTube ad revenue and the algorithms to get by doing this. That people can make the content that they want to see and find people that also want to see that same content. There really is no bond like that. And that's what being a so-called influencer should really be about. Bonsai Pop is a channel, but it's also an idea. The idea that there can be hope in a space that has corporate hands around its neck. And as long as we're around, I can promise you that we're never gonna let punk rock cartoons die.